And they just keep repeating the lie and then it starts being believed. I could not believe what I was seeing. I literally could not believe what I was seeing. Media is fundamentally broken. Hamas doesn't care about their own. So to me, that's worse.
I want to talk to you about social media. Given your role, given your perspective, given your expertise, and going through historically these spasms of conflict, given what you've seen on October 7th, what's the best way to punch through the noise for you as far as getting the message through? Because it has been difficult for Israel to actually get a narrative which people listen to, right?
Right, so I think it's a question of narratives. That's the key word here, right? And I think we're losing the PR war. It's because our enemies have a very simple narrative. You are oppressing us, free Palestine. That's it. How hard is that to understand, right? What's our narrative? Go look at influencers, Jewish influencers online. We're all fragmented. Everyone's saying their own thing. We're yelling about anti-Semitism, which is important. Obviously, we need to raise awareness for anti-Semitism, but if the world hates us as much as we say the world hates us, then no one cares that we're yelling that the world hates us. Like, what are we yelling about, right? The double standard. Yes, there's a double standard, and yes, it's important to raise awareness, but like, is that the best use of our time and resources? Probably not. So we need a narrative, and we need a unified narrative, and I think the narrative is pretty clear. The narrative should be light. Right? We are in a very dark world. And I don't think that's a subjective thing. And the Jewish people have been nothing but a source of light in the world in a very real way, right? Nobel Prizes, cancer research, rescue missions, right? We are a source of light and we need to own that. And the reason that we're losing the PR war is because we haven't formed a unified narrative. And I personally committed to this in the beginning of the war, that I'm personally going to make sure that we get the smartest marketing minds in a room to define our narrative and to actually work on amplifying it, because it's a really important narrative, and everyone likes light in a dark world. That's what we should be talking about, and unfortunately, we're not. We're dealing with like a bunch of lunatics. I mean, there's no other way to say it. The things that anybody could just go look at any one of my tweets and just read the replies, and you will get physically ill. Like, there are sick people out there. I'm not worried about them. Let them continue to spread their lies. There's nothing I can do about the fact that they have no desire to stick to the truth. There's nothing I can do about that. I can only worry about myself. Right? And when I say myself, I mean our people and our narrative. We need to make sure to have a positive message. And a message, by the way, just to be clear, Ryan was very good friends with my late brother, and we talked about this earlier today. It's unbelievable. Ari left many legacies, but there's one, I would say, his primary legacy that he left is something that should be so trivial and so obvious, and yet it's not, and that is truth. Truth. Like, words matter, And, we all hear these lies, and when you repeat a lie enough times, I don't want to get political, but like, when people come at me with, we occupied a Palestinian state, I'm like, okay, cool, I'll go with you, no problem. Just do me one favor. Tell me what the national anthem was. Just tell me who the prime minister was. What was the currency? What language did they speak? Like, if you're going to use these words, then let's talk about it, right? And Ari was like, he didn't have any tolerance for these lies. Everyone else was like, yeah, sure, let's just call Judea and Samaria the West Bank, because the world decided it's not Judea and Samaria. The reason the world decided is that because Jews come from Judea, and that doesn't work with their agenda. So they just rename it, and we should not play along with that. So, we need to stick to the truth no matter what. And by the way, to be clear, it's not always easy. Sometimes we're at fault. We're not perfect. We make mistakes. But when we make mistakes, we need to own that. And we do. But not enough. We need to stick to the truth. It should be so trivial. And it's not. This world is a world of lies. You could, you tell the sky is blue. And they're like, no, the sky's not blue. You're like, but the sky is blue. And they just keep repeating the lie, and then it starts being believed. So we need to maintain our moral clarity. We need to not let these people who are morally bankrupt just cloud our clarity.
How do you pick your battles online? And what battles do you pick? Because talking about the Middle East is not all that easy in 140 characters. So what battles do you pick? Because there's so many I'd like to pick. Like, I'd love to retweet Golda Gamari, but I also need to have a good day the next day, right? I pick the hills that I will fight, right? She does, you do. Which battles do you pick?
So I gotta admit, I'm a little embarrassed to answer this question, really, because Ari would not have approved. I'm being honest and vulnerable with you here. There was no such thing for Ari as, he's not worth my time. He fought 24 hours a day against anyone, and I can't. I'm just being honest. The volume has become unmanageable. I can't. Not only can I, not in terms of like the quantity, but the things that people write me. Maybe I need to develop thicker skin. I don't know. But many years ago, I went to meet Ben Shapiro in LA before he moved, and I said, Ben, how do you manage all the hate? Like, the amount of replies that you get on Twitter, like, how do you manage it? And he's like, what do you think I read that stuff? I'm like, what do you mean you don't read that stuff? He goes, I tweet and then I mute and I don't read anything. And I remember thinking to myself, isn't it called social media? Aren't you supposed to be social? Like, aren't you supposed to listen to people and talk? Like, that's crazy. What do you mean you mute? And I remember thinking to myself, that's not the way you're supposed to use social media. And here we are, I tweet and I mute. I can't do it. And, once in a while I'll go in and I'll read the replies, just in case I miss something important. And I get nauseous. Like, so I am very, very selective with the battles that I do choose to fight, and the only time that I will engage in a debate or a quote-unquote fight on social media is if I am talking to someone who I think is listening. If a person's yelling at me Heil Hitler and calling me names and my kids' names and my wife's names and using profanity, again, Ari would have said, you should debate that person, not because that person's listening, but because there are millions of people watching this dialogue from the sidelines and they need to know the truth. And he's right. But I'm not Ari, and I don't have the strength, the emotional strength to do it. And, you know, I'm trying my best, but it's unfortunately become such a cesspool. It's become so unmanageable that, you know, I do my best. And, you know, as Dave mentioned before, like I have someone that works with me who just sent me a message yesterday that I just hit my billionth impression, which blew my mind because I'm a one-man show. But, you know, I guess the strategy in one way you could say is working because I'm reaching people. And the way I've kind of defined my mission in this war on social media is twofold. My first kind of half of my mission is to provide real-time accurate information, which, if you think about it, real-time accurate information is kind of like a paradox, because if you're reporting real-time, then you can't verify that it's accurate. And if it's accurate, then you have to verify it won't be real-time. So I basically take all these sources, you know, I'm getting information from the IDF spokesperson and from the Knesset, and I'm able to cross-reference and make sure that what I'm tweeting and sharing is accurate. So just to give you like a case study of when that was important, when that famous hospital story happened at the beginning of the war, right? So I got the intel about 40 minutes before it was reported, and I was told by the highest ranking officials in the IDF, that was not us. We did not attack there, that was not us. So I tweeted and I said to my followers, heads up, you're going to be hearing about a hospital bombing, and you're going to be told it was Israel, and I'm telling you it was not Israel. And that tweet got about 5 million impressions. So 40 minutes later when the propaganda machine kicked in, there were millions of people who knew not to believe the BS, right? So that's kind of a case study of why I focus on real-time accurate information. Thank you. The second part of my mission, I would say, maybe is even more important, which is us, focusing on us, giving us a reason to get up in the morning, right? Giving us good news, right? There is good news, right? We get a big Hamas official or, you know, whatever, a milestone, whatever it may be, or just an inspirational video about some IDF soldier, or whatever it may be, just something good. And that's really what I've been focusing on, and I'm hyper-focused on that. Like, you know, there's obviously insane amount of things, good things happening, and, you know, people are sending me fundraisers, all that. I feel bad saying no, but this is what I'm doing, and this is all that I'm doing. But, you know, I would love to have Ari's strength and have the ability to just fight with everyone online. I just don't. So whoever has seen my stuff online, I do have a funny thing that I love doing. Whenever they come at me, you know what I'm about to say? Whenever they come at me and they say the most horrendous, like, honestly, if you read some of the stuff, you would not believe that there's a human being who kisses their mother with that mouth, right? And so in the beginning, I would go crazy. I was like, it would make me so upset. And I'm like, this is not good for me. I need to flip this. So I set up an actual shortcut on my iPhone. I don't know if you guys, there's a shortcut feature on your iPhone that you could write like a couple of letters and it fills in a whole sentence. And anytime someone comes at me, I have an automatic response. Thanks, sweetie. I just donated money to the IDF in your name. Zionist worldwide, thank you for your contribution. Israeli flag, Israeli flag, Israeli flag. Oh my God, it drives them crazy. And now every time I get a nasty message, I'm like, yeah, baby, here comes the sweetie message, you know? So I flipped it, and now I'm having a good time with these people, but you know, we all gotta do what we gotta do, and I'm trying my best, but it's become unmanageable. You know, I was in Montreal yesterday. I could not believe what I was seeing. I literally could not believe what I was seeing. I couldn't order an Uber because every single road was blocked by Palestinian protesters. You could not drive, I kid you not, 35 seconds without seeing Palestinian flags, whether it's billboards, on the street, everywhere. And, you know, I mean, I'm not saying it's good here, but from what I've seen, very anecdotal, limited, whatever, it's not even close. Here is not even close to what's going on over there. It's really scary over there, honestly. But the bottom line is like this. I think, you know, you mentioned World War III before, and maybe this is a crazy opinion, I don't know, but I don't think in World War I they said we're in World War I, right? We are in World War III. How many countries are involved in this war? Like, actually think about how many countries are involved in this war. Tens of countries are involved in this war, whether it's militarily, diplomatically, financially, politically. The whole world is involved in this war. So I actually think we're in World War III. I really do, but maybe that's crazy. But the bottom line is I don't leave Canada, you know, thinking, you know, negatively about the people, because really, truly, like, you know, I'm from New York and Israel. We're obnoxious on both sides. Like, you guys are nice. Like, Canadians are nice people. I'm telling you, like, it's a foreign thing to me, you know. But yeah, I had a remarkable experience, you know, in the community there and in Montreal and in here, and I'm leaving with very positive sentiment. But you know, there's definite fear. You know, I definitely feel it's a really, really scary situation. You know, and I know that this is kind of a bad comparison to make. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But the transition from dangerous rhetoric in Germany to extermination took years. Here it took a month, like October, not even a month, like the week after October 7th, anti-Semitism skyrocketed. And I don't even understand how that's possible, but again, that brings me back to what I said before. There's no logic in any of this, right? So I am scared. I'm very scared, you know, for my brothers and sisters, you know, outside of Israel. And yes, I understand, you know, you don't have to tell me about loss in Israel, and I get it. But, you know, in Israel, it's in our hands, right? And being at the mercy of a foreign government did not pan out so well for us throughout history. And so I am worried and I am scared. But when I come to an event like this, honestly, I mean, it reassures me because this is unbelievable. I mean, the moral clarity in this room right now, it restores my faith in humanity, honestly. So thank you guys for that. Media is fundamentally broken, okay? We know what gets clicks. Truth doesn't get clicks, right? Covering the encampments gets clicks. These guys have a loud bark, but they are statistically insignificant. They are not even close. Majority, they're so small. Now, I'm not talking about specifically here, in general. They're making, you know, the media loves to cover it. My only point was that these guys, as much coverage as they get, they're insignificant, they're small, they have not changed hearts and minds, and they will not change hearts and minds. They're gonna go away, they're gonna disappear, just like their friends in all the other terrorist supporting countries.
Hi, I have a question for Hillel. I read in the latest Gallup poll that Hamas is polling as high as ever. They're at 35%. And I also read that it seems the only consensus that Israelis and Palestinians share right now is that nobody wants a two-state solution. Something like 65% of Israelis against it, and then 70% of Palestinians are against it. So when will we ever see peace in the region, or that's just never going to happen?
Let me solve the Middle East conflict in 30 seconds. No, I mean, listen, call me a pessimist, but you know, when you're raising your kids from age 0 to believe that Jews are pigs, there's no wiggle room here, right? So, you know, this is going to require a re-education of an entire generation, right? And the truth is, you know, we talk about the two-state solution. For there to be a two-state solution, there has to be a single Palestinian, again, I don't want to call them that, whatever you want to call them, one leader, one, who will get up and say Israel has a right to exist, one. So how are we going to, you know, and again, forget my political opinions and forget what most Israelis, you know, Judaism is, you know, the most peaceful, and I know the other religion calls himself peaceful, but let's be real here, right? I mean, the word peace is in our prayers thousands of times, right? We yearn for peace, right? And Israel has offered, in my opinion, we've gone too far in terms of what we've offered for peace. But we've offered everything. And like Brian said, they don't miss an opportunity. So we've done whatever we can. Like, you know how many times we'd offer them a state? It's unbelievable, right? So you want to talk about peace in the Middle East? There'll be peace in the Middle East. I think it was Golda Meir who said, right? And they love their children more than they hate us. They don't. They just don't, right? I wrote on Twitter, like point by point comparing Hamas's ideology to Nazi ideology, and it's really pretty much identical, except for one thing. Except for one thing. The Nazis drank themselves to sleep every night because they felt so guilty. They felt so guilty. You know what Hamas does? They live stream it. Okay? And not only that, but Hamas doesn't care about their own. So to me, that's worse. I can't even believe that I'm uttering the words that there's anyone worse than the Nazis. But we've reached that point. And so you want to talk about peace in the Middle East? I would want nothing more. Trust me. In fact, I'm not afraid to. I wish this war would end. I mean, we need to do what we need to do, but I dream of the day, but it's never going to happen until we re-educate the next generation, and they don't grow up thinking that we're pigs and that we deserve to die, because that's the reality right now. And I don't want to generalize and say all Palestinians are bad. Please don't misunderstand me. But they did elect Hamas, and the ones that aren't guilty and pro-Hamas are sitting quietly, so they're irrelevant. That's it. So we need a other side. We need a partner to make peace with, and we don't have one.